First of all, I have a very specific question for Oscar, because I'd love to know what it's like to throw Sir Ben Kingsley into a ditch.
It's really fun. Yeah, it's very invigorating. It was a mixture of Sir Ben Kingsley and his stunt double. Mm-hmm. So we you know, for the really heavy stuff, for
the acting was the stunt double.
Yeah,
and
for
Ben
the
Kingsley
acting and Ben Kingsley
threw himself into the
Yeah.
But overall, Operation Finale, it's such a heavy, important story. And I'm wondering if there's ever a moment during filming, before filming, after filming, where it's sort of a specific moment where it really hit you, the weight of it, the history of it, anything like that.
Well, every once in a while you would meet an extra whose parents had survived the Holocaust, or who had lost family members in the Holocaust, because Argentina has a pretty big Jewish immigrant population. And you also realize that Argentina went through its own military dictatorship in the late 1970s, early 80s, and they had concentration camps and they had mass killings. And so walking around the streets of Buenos Aires, this beautiful city, beautiful democratic nation, are the sufferers and perpetrators of this kind of violence. So you realize how possible this is.
I was speaking with Ben, and he said that there wasn't a lot of conversations really on set about what kind of dynamic you wanted to have with Peter scene to scene and moment to moment. Mm-hmm. And I'd love for you to expand on that a little bit, because it's so interesting to me that you sort of just felt your way around the conversations and you felt your way around each other and sort of what you wanted their dynamic to be in that moment.
Well, it was, to be honest, I mean, Chris and I had tons and tons of conversations, but really that's the dynamic of Eichmann. He's a mystery, and he's just this mysterious force of gravity, of nature, and so the fact that is how Sir Ben approached the role, it was perfect, because it really actually created the dynamic of how do we get in there, how do you talk, and how do you know, and the truth is, we had gone out to eat before we started, Sir Ben and I, and we had like a long conversation where we just talked, you know, in a vague way about it, not specifically about this scene and what was going to be said here. But he, from the first table read, I mean, he was already off book. He knew, you know, like you said, his lines and everyone else's lines. Yeah. So he was ready to go. He was primed and ready to go. So there wasn't much need to talk about it. It was just about doing it. And then once we were doing it, Chris would come in and adjust something, or you know, kind of shape it so it would kind of, you know, reach a certain place. It was thrilling to work with him.
When you're playing a character where there's a template, there's a real person, there's pictures you can see and video you can see. How do you avoid falling into the trap of just being a copy? How do you put your own take into a character when it's a real person?
Well, it's impossible to copy, because I'm not him, mm-hmm. You know, and it's really just a snapshot of what about this person, what kind of hits me, and then trying to focus on that. So you never really, I mean, at least the way that I work, I'm not a mimic. I don't have that skill. So mine is something different. And so just focusing on the circumstances and what he's feeling and what he's trying to do, and hopefully taking some of, you know, listening to his recordings and reading his book, meditating on that.
And overall, what kind of role do you want this movie to have for an audience member in 2018 today?
Well, the best thing would be if people went to the movie to be entertained, because it does have all those bells and whistles of a suspense thriller. But that, you know, underneath that, I think, is an example of how, of the kind of national trauma and global trauma that's produced by people who are convinced to do terrible things by a demagogue who utilizes race hatred, and that these things aren't away there in the past or distant from us, but it's happening all the time.